Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Genius Game UK Recap, Season 1, Episode 7. I am here with, it seems like the only man here who does not have a mustache, which is very strange, honestly, Cory Wurtenberger. Cory, how are you doing?
Oh my God, this whole season, it's like, oh my God, how many episodes are left? Are we almost there yet? Now I'm like, damn, we're season 2. We're
Yeah, I
season
know.
3.
We're
So
talking
good.
about an amazing episode of The Genius. I cannot believe this is incredible. We're doing it with a phenomenal guest, the only man here who has played The Amazing Race, a man who got more a man who got more screwed over than Doohy himself, the one and only Danny Butler. Danny, how are you doing?
Oh, doing well. Yeah, those are some traumatic times on the race, but
Uh-huh.
thankful to be here and talking about the genius. One of my first loves, definitely love it. And this episode was a pick me up, and very grateful that I got the invite for this episode and not one of the previous episodes
Yes.
because we have a lot to cover today.
I'm sure I'm going to be getting a text from Fishback because he already was mad that he got episode 5 and then he watched episode 6 and he was like, that one was so much better. Why didn't I get that one? And now when he watches this one, it's going to be not even close. Danny, before we get started, by the way, please like, comment, subscribe, whatever. Do the subscribe on our audio podcast thing or whatever. I don't know. That's more Rob's thing.
Exactly.
But,
Yeah.
but we would love it. We would genuinely
Sure.
love it. And leave a review, leave a comment. I saw so many reviews that were so nice about me and so like constructive about you, Cory. So I would love more of that. Danny, before we get into this like really fun episode that actually like Cory said, like reignited my love for this show so much. Can you tell us a little bit of your like history with the Genius? How did you get involved in it? How did you find it in the first place? And yeah.
Yeah, so take me back to junior year of high school. I got an iPod Touch, and I was like, all right, what can I do with this iPod Touch? And instead of playing games, I found reality television. The Wikipedia page with all of the different reality TVs just started going list by list and landed on the Genius and was like, what? This is board games combined with Survivor compared with reality TV. And I was like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Binged all of the seasons, but it's been a while since I watched. I tried to watch a couple episodes to get back in, but since then, I've actually hosted a few live games of the Genius. Love the design of the games. Love being able to like break board games and look at different like concepts of it. So to have it back in like the UK version, it's been fun. Game design has been interesting, but it's been a lot of fun having it back.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
No way.
I
I mean,
love I was just going to say the formulaic approach of going through every reality show and finding the genius that way is super interesting. I love the idea that you had to get like, you watch like seasons of The Price is Right. It was first on the list. Then you got to go through Chopped, and finally you land on this South Korean variety show. But no, it's been so good. And I feel like most people have like their origin story coming through like RHAP or like these reality spaces. Now you were an honest
Wikipedia.
genius fan.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
you and Cory do have this in common because I don't even know if we've talked about this, but back in high school, Cory would actually host his own Genius games with some of his friends.
That's
We would host it
awesome.
at our grandma's house, and he would bring friends over. I even played in one of them, and I remember during those games, Cory's friends actually conspired to split the money in the end to the point where Cory was like, all right, well, if you guys are doing that, none of you are getting money and just canceled the cash prize.
Dude, I was trying to incentivize people to win the game, and all
Yep.
they did was disrespect the game that I built. Zach is
Mhm.
trying to make these genius. We don't have to go into the Golly
Yeah.
Whopper games, which is also a children's book that I co-opted for the name of my games.
Uh-huh.
But anyways, the Genius UK, right?
Yeah.
So that's obviously the Korean one that we love. How have you been enjoying the UK version of the Genius up to this point? Because we got a lot to say about this episode, but up to this point.
I think up to this point, I've been like, do these people know they're on a game show where they're trying to win? Like,
Yeah.
I'm sitting over here and looking at like Bex, and I'm like, Bex, you are playing the game. Like, you're wanting to be entertaining. You're like, yeah, I'm here to win. I'm here to. And then everybody's else like, let's get these joint wins. And I'm like, what's
Hmm.
going on? Are we playing the genius? And so it's been fun. I think some of the games have been like really fun to see. Some of the death matches are throwbacks where I'm like, I remember you.
Hmm.
And so been fun to see some of those, some fun characters, but this episode definitely saved a lot of just like kind of the fast forwarding to get to the end. So
Yeah. Cory, you had a take earlier. We were talking briefly about this episode. How did you think that this episode of The Genius was, like, as a piece of entertainment?
So I texted Zach immediately after the episode. I called him. He didn't answer. Classic Zach behavior. And I texted him, "Have you watched the episode?" "Yeah, I think it's one of my favorite episodes of The Genius ever." And it really
wow.
does feel that way. I watched this episode and I watched Food Chain, season 2, episode 1. The context of that episode doesn't really matter, but I watched both of them and genuinely couldn't decide which I liked more, which is just a mind-blowing thing when you've compared any other episode of The Genius UK or The Genius Game UK to that show. So, like, I can't praise this episode enough, top to bottom. Even in the original Genius, often the main match is incredible and the death match drags. There was no dragging happening this entire episode, and it was a longer episode. Again, I don't want to be preemptive and be like, this is a top 5 episode ever. I have not done those rankings, but certainly in my head, if I was going to roughly categorize them, it's in that top tier.
Yeah, I mean, when you said that, I was like, really, like, I was like, top 5 ever of the whole Genius. And I don't know if I can co-sign that right now, but it's not even a question. This was the best episode of the season. The reason it was the best episode of the season is because everybody was actually playing to win. I think that maybe the format of this episode in particular, the fact that we got 3 eliminations, the fact that there was nowhere to hide, I think really like kickstarted these people. And I also gotta say, I think that there's some element of like these people, from what we understand of the schedule, they have been playing the Genius for like a week now. Like every single episode is a day. So I think that they're like, I mean, think about like Cory, think about you on day 7 of Big Brother, right? I can't think of myself on day 7 of Survivor. But you can think of yourself on day 7 of Big Brother. Like in that spot, you're finally like, you're not going home first. Like you're feeling good. You're feeling safe. And all of a sudden you start to feel like, all right, I can move around a little bit more. I'm a little bit more comfortable where I am. I feel like this episode, we are finally seeing everyone get to that point, and it just sucks that it's at the very end of the entire show. But yeah, I think that's.
I think it's interesting because it's like, yes, at one point they feel like more able to move around and feel more comfortable in the environment, and maybe the cameras are being less scary at this moment because, you know, again, the Genius is all celebrities, they're used to it. I think the other side is like, I think the games are wearing them down. Like, I would not be surprised if this kind of episode was super boring because they have been playing for a week, and every time they finish, they survive the death match by the skin of their teeth. They have to go to bed and wake up for the next round, as opposed to a game that's stretched out over a few months. So, like, I have so much respect for all these players, as much as we clown on them for like day after day just coming back and trying to survive. And I feel like this episode was like, they're not trying to survive, they're trying to win. And that was just awesome.
Yeah. Agreed. I definitely see, like, you can see in some of their attitudes, like the exhaustion getting to them, like some people snapping at the smallest things. But I think also the gameplay has evolved where, yeah, like you said, there was nowhere to hide and people were playing really hard and creating really unique strategies and trying to break the game in really cool ways.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I can't wait to get into it. So we see the final 5 enter the room. Again, we don't really get any fun, whatever. That's not happening. That's not this show. We don't get to like, we don't get the moments where it's like Sangmin asking Sung Yu why he doesn't follow him on Twitter. Like, or like the Dongmin, like Ching Yu Ya stuff. It's just not part of the DNA of this show. Maybe in season 2, that's something that we can get. Again, wish the show was funnier. Speaking of funny though, we got David Tennant coming in, another set of bangers. And David Tennant is winning me over here. I feel like he's getting loopy at this point. He like stands up with his chair. He's like spinning around on it, sitting like this. Like, I don't know. There was something there.
I have a theory about David Tennant. I think we were wrong, misguided this entire podcast series. I think he's actually in that room from the start of the game to the end.
Oh, you think so?
They send him food through the door and he just waits for his next instructions. That's my theory. And I feel like his actions, his behavior is like making my theory seem more and more true.
Have you been enjoying David Tennant on this show, Danny?
Yeah, it's funny. I didn't even think about it. Sometimes with hosts, I'm like, oh, I'm just focused on the characters. But in reality, like the host makes half of it, which is fun in those entry clips. Yeah, he was a goofball that even the contestants commented it on it. They were like, I don't remember what someone said, but it was funny.
Yeah.
Well,
I
I have a
think that
question, Danny. I just
okay.
wanted to ask about like your perspective of David Tennant. So when he's like talking about like the main match results or like the points being scored, things like that, where obviously that's done in post. What do you think the players are watching and reacting to in the moment? Like, what do you think it is?
I don't know if it's like production. It's like those, or are they just like filming and go, act excited, act shocked, you do
Yeah.
this. Like, I'm wondering, like those fake reactions on like America's Got Talent, where you're like, that's not their real reaction to whatever's on stage right now.
Yeah.
Do they film any of that
Well,
to
it's
like
like in
splice?
the Amazing Race, right? Like when you open Roadblock, you don't actually get to see the little flash of Phil like walking around with like the set of bulls being like in this roadblock, like you're
Yep.
just reading on the paper. So I'm sure for them it's like, some booming producer voice kind of like giving them the rundown and like explaining the rules, and then you get David Tennant just providing color commentary. Um he's won me over. I thought this was fun. We've been a David Tennant hater this whole time. David, we would love to have you on the podcast if you are listening. You won us over. You're a brilliant actor. Love what we saw of you in Doctor Who, which I haven't seen any, but I saw the epic rap battle.
It's
So
true.
yeah,
La
big fan.
density. Sorry.
Yeah. So we get the Garnet count. He says, let's see what the Garnet count is. For a second, I thought we were actually going to see the individual players' Garnet counts, which we have no clue of, but nope,
Yep.
it's just completely irrelevant. I cannot believe that, honestly. Like, were you a fan of the Garnets in the original Genius?
Yeah, I was gonna say, how do you feel, like, what is even the points of the Garnets? Like in this season, I'm sitting there and going like, all right, are there advantages? They used to be able to buy things like, and in the death match, I was
Yeah.
grateful that we'll get there, but like Garnets came to play a little bit, and I wish they would have come to play with
Mhm.
different mechanics in the game based off who had more, actually incentivized people for going for Garnets.
I will say one of the biggest mistakes of this show is not having some kind of open pass God's Judgment style game where like one of those games where it's like a trick to the cards or a trick to the dice where you have to like really like sink your garnets in so that you can win like basically
Bonus
buy the
pack
items
to
that you
buy
need.
things. Yeah.
Exactly. And because they didn't have something like that, the garnets felt irrelevant this whole season.
You're evil. You want them to be playing for $8,000,
Yeah, a little bit.
£6,000. Like,
Well,
if there was
but
one of
then
those
give
games,
them
right?
more
What's our
garnets.
number? Are we at 40?
We hit 40 at the end of the episode.
Again, like I and Ken joked about it in a previous episode. It's like 3 months rent in London. But I think honestly, people forget, maybe not forget, or maybe they just didn't watch the show. I don't think they ever got a real handle on, I've talked about this a couple times. I don't think the Genius proper got a handle on Garnets ever, or really figured out how to use them correctly. It felt like it was always like a steamroll with Garnets, or just completely imbalanced, or the only solution that I can think of, which we've talked about before, is like tell them there's a Garnet match at the final 7 or 6, so people know it matters and they have to build them up to that point.
Yep.
But that has its own problems. Like I actually haven't felt the absence of Garnets, because usually in the original Genius, I think I would feel the inequity that Garnets created.
I don't know. I think I agree with you when it comes to like the season 2 garnets of it all, because that obviously got like super wonky. But like in episode 1 of season 1, we've got like Sangman making deals with garnets. Like the deals for the garnets has always been like a huge part of it, and it's only a part of it because the players have gotten to see the power of the garnets. And I think that it was a huge missed opportunity not to have them like ever come up, because even if it was like an early game, they got to see how powerful they were. We would have seen a lot more wheeling and dealing for them, a lot more people playing for the win. I think it was a missed opportunity.
There were some clues that they could buy in some of these games, or at least in Code Breakers.
Well, there were in Code Breakers there were the
happened.
clues. In Zombie Game, there was the
Cures.
cures you could
Antidote.
buy.
Yep.
In this game, obviously, they came up in the death match, and we did see at certain points people using them to barter with to prevent themselves from going into the death match. But we never got like a really cool Garnet moment at any point in the season, and it seems like it's too late for that. But let's now get into.
Do you think there'll be something in the finale though?
I think
They will
it'll be an
probably.
item, right?
Yeah, they'll probably give an extra item to whoever has the most garnets. But when it's only 2 people with garnets, there's not really that much exciting you could do with it, you know?
Yep.
We get to our main match today, which is called Media Moguls. Did you think there was any chance that Frankie Grande was going to
Roll
bust
sap.
in as a surprise host for this one?
More likely than David Tennant busting in.
That's a good point. Hey, he did do Celebrity Big Brother UK. I mean, I don't know if they're the same
Ooh.
network or not, but there's a little bit of synergy there.
Yeah.
So in this game, you're competing to become the top investor in 4 companies: radio, newspaper, TV, and social media. You've got $100,000 to invest in 4 rounds. You place your checks into the box and you have to write whatever check you're putting in on the podium. And the player who invests the most in each company gets an investor token. And the player who invests the least in each company each round is banned from investing in that company for the rest of the game. Additionally, bonus tokens are awarded if you are the sole top investor in more than one company, and you can not drain your bank account. Sorry, not the sole top investor. That's actually incorrect. If you are the top investor in more than one company, and you cannot drain your bank account, if you exceed your number, like whatever you have left, then your check will bounce. The winner secures their spot in the final. The player with the fewest tokens is eliminated, and the remaining trio will play in a 3-way death match where only one player will come out alive. So we're getting rid of 3 players in this episode. What do you guys think just of this structure? Let's not even get into the main match first. What do you think of this structure right here?
Oh, it's so good. It's like, okay, you have to avoid losing. That's always been the case. That's how the season has felt. Getting last is the only thing I don't want to happen. If you don't get last, you're in a 3-way death match where one person survives. I don't like those odds either. I would consider that like I'm probably going to be eliminated. So everyone is so beyond incentivized to win while simultaneously needing to make sure, okay, if I don't win, I have to end up in that death match. So like the incentives are to play so selfishly, so self-interestedly. And even if this cast wants to not do that, and you could feel in this episode, they wanted to revert back to what they did in previous episodes, they couldn't. And I think a lot of that is a result of the format.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I think even the game design of like this idea of, yeah, it really impacts what you do, what you say, who you work with, and you could win the game selfishly. Like there is strategy to be able to win it by yourself. And so I think, yeah, just the setup makes for a lot more entertaining gameplay. I love the idea of a 3-person death match. And I think even 3-person death matches with like 2 people staying in the future would be really interesting strategically as well. But I think the format for a penultimate episode really, really clean.
Yeah, and The Genius is also a show where I think with the Korean version, we've criticized the later episodes of each season for sometimes getting a little bit slower, having less room to play. So I'm like so happy that they just decided to do this like crazy big red wedding style episode. I wanted to ask you, Danny, because with The Amazing Race specifically, I feel like that is a show that suffers a little bit with the same issue that like The Genius might have, which is that basically the whole game of The Amazing Race is don't get last place, essentially. And certainly there's benefits to getting first, like you get the trip or you get a little bit of money. But it's not like necessarily like what you will do and then obviously like your placement moving
Yep.
forward into the next round. Did you feel like when you were on The Amazing Race, how much were you motivated by like, I want to win this leg, I want to be at the top, I want to be number 1, versus I just don't want to be last?
So I think there's different strategy. I think on our season, it was really unique where your placement really did matter. You got split into groups and there weren't equalizers on our season of The Amazing Race, where it was like every single day you just had to fight to do the best that you possibly could. Sure, you might want to work with people to like not be last, but ultimately you wanted to. Where on like seasons where there's a ton of equalizers, you'll see teams working together where they're like, oh, we can work together to just survive the leg and do the best that we can do together. So I think it depends on the season. I'm definitely more of we are going to do the best that we can do. We're going to use alliances to motivate and encourage us, but we are not going to stay behind to help other teams and
Certainly.
hurt our race.
Yeah. Right.
Zach,
No Cho
you go.
brothers for you guys.
My guys. Zach, so I guess my question to you would be, and I have some ideas, like what lessons do you take away from this format that made such a good game, and how do you like make that an episode to episode thing? Because I'm thinking like, is it as simple as, and I've said this idea before, you hated it, someone goes to the deathmatch, whoever gets last, and then it's a wheel from whoever's not safe. So like everyone's at risk of going to the deathmatch regardless of who's the elimination candidate, which they've done in the challenge several times. That's one option. Maybe a simpler option that would be less like RNG luck based. What if we just get rid of the token of life? Like you can't give away, you can't give anyone safety. Yeah.
No, I like the being able to hand out because I think that it really it makes it for fun circumstances where there's like a 5-person alliance or a 4-person alliance, but someone is going to be left out. And unfortunately, this season, people were kind of okay with that. I think in a lot of other seasons, people wouldn't be. If I'm talking like what lessons I feel like the Genius could take from this, I think that they really could play with the death match itself a lot more. We've always known the death match as this thing that 2 people enter, and I think that that could totally change episode by episode depending on the game. We could have games that are structured where it's the final 8 and 4 people are going to be going into the death match.
Yeah.
Okay, like, and maybe it's like
Do a double elimination.
Sure, it could be double elimination, or it could be like there are 2 losers, and those 2 losers get to choose 2 people to come with them. So it's like that. It's kind of like if you're in that middle section, there's twice the chances of you ending up getting pulled. I think that would encourage people to be playing for the win a lot more. It would also make the token of life a lot more valuable for the people who want to win and for the people who are going to be gifted it. So like I think that there's a lot there that they could try. I also don't mind this instant elimination style thing that they end up doing, which unfortunately ends up hitting Bex, because it did add a lot of stakes and had this great climax in the middle of the episode where we've already fully lost a player due to her absolutely horrific play. No offense, Bex. So should we get into that? Should we get into Bex's?
Let's do
Okay,
it.
I was going to say one interesting point on both of yours is, would it be interesting to have a bigger cast and do a instant elimination and then death match every round?
I think if you did like a 6-episode limited series kind of vibe, I could see that. The problem is, I think we haven't gotten enough character moments or like personality out of these contestants just in the editing process. And like you add more and it dilutes the airtime even more. Like,
yeah,
I think there's like some middle ground between Zach and your idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that it's like the more people at risk, essentially, the more people are playing for the win is kind of where I come down on it. And also giving them more time to get their feet under them, because I feel like these are now players who are playing with nothing to lose versus I feel like they've been playing scared for a lot of the game. They're finally not. Okay, so let's get into round 1 of this game. And I wrote down here, Bex instantly tells everyone her strategy, which is that she's going to go big on one and 0 on the others. Charlotte, meanwhile, has a different strategy, which is we should absolutely just target one person and knock them out instantly. So,
well, let me just ask the big question. So I'll ask this Danny. Danny, in Bex's ideal world, what happens?
Right.
I think she goes 3,000, and then I feel like she should have put money in the others. Like, did she not put money in the others?
Danny, let me just lay out what we saw, at least on the show, of her doing. And I don't. Yeah, you're right. It is a little confusing if she did put more in the others. That was not made clear. So she tells Bedalia she's going to put 50,000 onto radio, and makes him promise that he's not going to share that. He instantly shares it to the rest of them, who have a lot of time just by themselves, the 4 of them, with Bex in some other room. I don't really know where she went. Maybe she was doing a confessional or the bathroom or something. But she gave him a lot of time to come up with a strategy. Meanwhile, we have Ben's strategy, which is that each of the 4 are going to put the same amount, 24,500 in, leaves each of them with 2,000 win, 2,000, gets them 5 tokens each, and locks Bex, or 7 tokens each, actually, because it's 1, 3, 5, 7. And then that's going to lock Bex at 5 tokens maximum. Oh, sorry, no. It in Ben's world, because he actually thinks she is putting 50,000 into one of them. That then gives, in his mind, 5 tokens each. She's locked at 5 maximum because she can only win one.
That same one every time.
Following round, yeah. So Bex, then not knowing the strategy, but having already told Bedalia what her strategy is, decides that her strategy is going to be juking them out with 3,000. And all we see is her put the 3,000 into, I believe it was social media.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I wrote here, she fundamentally does not understand this game. But yeah, I want to throw the question back that Cory just asked. What was Bex's best case scenario here? What was she thinking was going to happen?
I think she thought that they were going to put 0 in the second one because they're like, oh, Bex has this category. I don't think she realized they need to put money in to not be last. And so they were putting in money in regardless, and probably wouldn't put as low as 3,000. But I think Bex over here is thinking, oh, I'm going to get this category for just $3,000 and then have the rest of my money to be able to use. Definitely interesting. I have one small quip game design wise. It does feel like a group of 4 can break it instantly and target one person, which is what happened. So it would have been interesting to see if it just locked you out for the next round, similar to episode 1, where the jail locked you out for the next round. Because I wonder how much that would have impacted the strategy and allowed everybody maybe the chance to play moving forward.
Yeah, I get that. I do. I will say, like, I didn't feel super frustrated watching this episode in the way I felt watching other people get locked out of other games, because Bex locked herself out, frankly. Like, again, I think the best case scenario for her was Ben's plan to lock her out was, what if she did actually just win social media every round? Because I'm going to assume she put zeros in the other categories, because we have no idea what else she would have done. So, like, in that world, she's locking herself out on this gamble of, like, I'm going to have all my money. But again, you don't need your money if you're only going for a single token each time. So, like, I do think it was just misunderstanding the game. And I think it was extremely... I think we'll talk about every character this episode, but, like, what a fun, fitting ending for the Beck story.
Well,
I thought it was so fun.
I think that with the structure of this game, they're actually, I get what you're saying, that like 4 can ice one person out, but I think there's really easy counterplay in that could actually just have that one person supersede everyone, basically, which is, let's say Bex was like really on the ball with this stuff, saw the 4 in the room, and could figure out that there was going to be some level of like trying to ice her out, right? If she then goes all in on 3 of them right here, let's say some form of like 33,000, 33,000, 33,000, right? She then claims all 3 of them. I know we get into Bedalia's funky math, but assuming he hadn't done that, right? The other 4 are now iced out of all 3 of those categories.
Oh,
and
100%.
she literally just won that game. So I think that, like, I think we did see the 4 ultimately end up being able to ice her out, but I don't think that this was the inevitable way that this was going to play out. I just think that, like, yeah, what was she thinking? Like, I'm really excited to ask her in the exit interview, like, how was this supposed to work?
Yeah. I will say I loved Bex, though, as a character. Like, so fun, like, willing to call people out, willing to go to bat, willing to give entertainment. And she literally multiple times was like, yeah, I'm just going to do what I want to do. And I think that broke some of the games and was definitely fun. But yeah, definitely seeing her untimely demise right here because she didn't get the game at all. I was like, bummer.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it was a bit of a shame, I think, how it all turned out for Bex, where round 1, it is mathematically, like, she's gone. She's out of the game. Because I think what's so beautiful about this format is, say, after Bedalia betrays everybody, the thought is, okay, let's ice out Bedalia now. But if last place was still up for grabs, everyone would start turning on each other, right? You can't then work as a group of 3 to get rid of the 1. The problem was Bex was already taking that spot. So, like, I do think if Bex does a plan like yours, Zach, or maybe it's not even that clean, maybe she wins 2 of them, right? And she just has a bit of a lead. Can people try to ice her out if they even wanted to? Or would they be like, Bex might be a bit too out in front. Let me turn on Charlotte, Ken, Benjamin, or Bedalia. So, like, I actually kind of love the game design. And while the way it worked out was it kind of broke it, I think it broke it in a pretty fun and interesting way.
Yeah, we did lose that whole element of the like last place is instantly eliminated, which would have been, I think, probably more fun. But I was happy to see how it played out. I think that Bex, while she has been a lot of fun in this season, and I've loved her like rivalry with Ben, and I've loved how much she's willing to like scamper around and like fight with people and all that stuff. I think had kind of proven herself at this point to be the weakest player left in the final five. And I was not shocked to see her kind of make this mistake and ultimately go home. Although it is the
Yeah.
first member of my team that's getting eliminated, which will be a trend today in this
Absolutely.
episode.
Wow.
So meanwhile, we have on one hand Bex playing the worst in that round, and then on the other hand, we've got the dynamics of the top four here. So Charlotte, you can see she's always freaking out. She's always like nervous that someone's going to betray her, as she should be, but she's got the wrong guy this time. She insists that they look at Ken's checks. She says, I'm switching partners. I need to go and watch Ken. An important part of this game, as we mentioned, is that you have to write it on the podium so people can peek over your shoulder. And we then see Bedalia puts his first 3 checks in the box, but at the last second runs over and secretly switches his 4th from 24,500 to 24,600.
So good. So good. I'm so proud of him. Bedalia, my guy. I was, you know how so many people on Big Brother Survivor, they say, I'm going to lay low and then I'm going to strike. And then they never strike, ever.
Yeah.
Bedalia, from episode 1, has been building up his social capital, creating this illusion of trust. Everyone can trust Bedalia. He's one of the naive players. And he banked all of it for this one round in episode 7, this one moment. And he had, perhaps, in my opinion, the most glorious 20 minutes in the sun in between rounds 1 and 2, where I was like, Bedalia exemplifies what I want the genius to be. And then the episode continues. But I was so proud of him. What a dude.
It was awesome. It definitely was like even the strategic part of like, okay, now is it on Ben for not watching him? Were they in collaboration? Were they working together? Like just such a fun whenever they reveal it on the screen and people are like, oh, what? No way that happened is very entertaining.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's like, where has this Bedalia been all game? And then what happened for me is I started thinking back and I'm like, have we been too harsh on Bedalia? Because obviously I think he started the game with this like loyal honor, whatever. But then you look at like how the game has progressed, right? Episode 3, he's the one who insists he gets the token of life from Benjamin. And that's great. I mean, this plan literally only worked for Benjamin and whoever Benjamin gave the token of life to. And Bedalia had the agency to get it from him. Episode 4, that was Bedalia's worst moment without question. That was where Amanfi gives him the black box and Bedalia basically like rage quits
Freaks
the game.
out. Yep.
And I think that emotional reaction from him and that kind of like just killing the game itself turned a lot of fans on Bedalia. It certainly made us question his ability. But then you look at episode 5, it's the safari race. It's a game he wins, and he wins with the team who basically is allowing him to get the win. Episode 6, he's part of the winning team with Diamond Dilemma. And then even when Bex betrays them, he's the one that insists he gets the token of life. Like Bedalia has been playing in his self-interest. He has been playing not necessarily for the win, but for this token of life from the beginning. And now that there's no one else to give him the token of life, he is like reaching out and grabbing it for himself. Now, is there a world, and could he have just, if he was going to betray them anyways, why did he not just do that for all of his checks? Was it impossible to pull off? Like, what do you guys think about that?
I think that the chaos of it, of like going too far and getting all 3, I think he probably was freaking out. And he's like, I only have time for one. It's a huge risk. And so I think in my mind, it's like maybe on Survivor, it's like, you know where one idol is. You have enough time to go and grab it real quick. And maybe you could go farther if you wanted to, but is it worth the risk if you can get away with one?
I mean, I think it is, right?
100%.
Like the score could have been 7-0-0-0, you know, 0.
I think I have 2 questions about Bedalia's plan. So first of all, could he have held this minor lead that he had? Was there a path there? And a second part of that question is like, They then develop a plan to ice Bedalia out, essentially. How did they do that? Like, I know how they did it, but how did they know how to ice Bedalia out? And I feel like that was not exactly in the episode.
We'll get into round 2. But I just want to, again, Bedalia, feel like we've been critical of you, and this obviously your final episode. You know, you gave us everything we wanted. Like, and for all the genius players, this is what we want. We want you guys to betray each other. And I will say, I did find it very funny that the immediate reaction to Bedalia's betrayal is Benjamin and Charlotte instantly going, well, is there a plan we could make to like still tie it up again? Like,
well, also,
what are they insane? What is wrong with them?
It wasn't just that. It was also them being like, wow, good for you, Bedalia. Yeah. Look at you.
Oh, yeah.
so good. I'm so proud of you. But like, again, the second the game starts, let's ice out Bex to group of 4. Bedalia betrays them. Let's ice Bedalia out, group of 3. And then it's like, okay, do we ice out Ken? Like, it's just going to go, it's like a Russian doll. Like, eventually we're just going to end up with 0 people in the group.
I know, but like, I will say that when they were like, oh, nice job, Bedalia, that felt so fake to me. It felt so much like they were like so mad. And I think we saw that come out as it goes on.
We did. Ben got mad. And I was like, why are you getting mad?
I think it's just they're not used to betrayal in this game. Like, I think that this is like really new to them, and they weren't expecting it from Bedalia of all people. So they still are thinking like, well, maybe we can convince Bedalia to like, help us tie it up. Bedalia pulls Ken aside with a little bit of a crazy plan where Bedalia is basically like, Ken, what if you just let me win? And Ken, being as cool as a cucumber as ever, is like, I just don't know if that makes sense for me personally. Like, yeah, there really is no.
Bedalia's like, it would be so cool. Wouldn't it be good?
And then Benjamin does say, and this is where I think they get a little bit catty with Bedalia. He does say, I don't think that Bedalia is clever enough to come up with a winning play, but they want to see if they can trick him into throwing. Bedalia continues to try and convince Ken to let him win. Ken doesn't see why. It's like, for me, it was kind of like watching them struggle with like, but this is how we played the other 6 episodes. You were cool with like just me winning. Why aren't you cool with it now? But Ken obviously is smart enough to be like, all right, but this is different because I don't want to go into the death match, which again is where I think that the structure of this episode with this particular set of players really is what jump-started the whole game. We then finally get to hear Charlotte and Ben's strategy for Bedalia to tie it up and even it out for everyone, which is they all tie in everything but TV. Bedalia bets 0 on TV. And then they all bet 1 on TV, and then they all just pinky swear and promise to not play TV for the rest of the game. They even said, we'll rip up the checks in front of you. Like, if you're Bedalia, like, not obviously I'm not going to ask you, do you consider this plan? Because that's fucking insane. But do you at least like pretend to consider this plan and try to pull one over on them?
100%. You sit there and you're like, wait, y'all are making a plan to tell me all the information on where the checks are going, and then want to watch us put the checks in the box. I'm like, okay, sounds good.
Yeah,
I'll do it.
It's a thing that has happened so many times in the season where like the few betrayals we do get and these moments where it's like, oh my God, is never followed up by like Sangmin being like, you got to do what you got to do. Or Kyung-hoon being like, hey, it's the genius. It's always, oops, I don't know what happened, guys. What happened? How did I get those points? Oh, I screwed up. So like, I get where these other people are coming from. And I totally know why Bedalia is doing what he's doing. Like, better to Hail Mary, try to preserve the relationships as opposed to just admit what you did. But like, the second I heard this plan, I didn't immediately think, should Bedalia do it? That seemed obvious to me. It was more like, how do they have so much information about what Bedalia's plans are? And that was the bigger problem for me.
Well, so then ultimately we do see Bedalia says no here. This is where Benjamin and Charlotte start like kind of yelling at him on the way out. Charlotte goes, I wrote him down. Charlotte goes, shut the door. Thank you. Bye. After he says no. And then Benjamin with a little bit of a harsher, Fuck off with that shit. We're giving you a chance to fix it. And it's bullshit. Yeah, Ben is. I honestly wish we'd seen more of Benjamin, things going wrong for him throughout the season. Because I think that like we got in episode 3 like the true like meltdown from him, but it was him on top. And I think that like Benjamin on the bottom is like a really fun character. Especially like after he's been betrayed. I think he would be like great on a show like Survivor, great with the reactions. He just hasn't had all that much to react to in this season where people have honestly been too loyal. But yeah, that was very petty and I really enjoyed it. So anyways, they need for their plan at this point is for him to win TV and them to win the other 3. So they decide to invest $664 into everything but TV, which will leave them with I don't know, like $6, $7 left total.
Yeah.
And Bedalia chooses to put $800 into TV and the magic number $51 into radio. So we just asked what the fuck was Bex thinking.
Yeah.
I guess I want, and because I think that there's maybe a little bit more logic with Bedalia's train of thought, but not much. What could best case scenario for Bedalia have been here?
He knows he's getting iced out in 2 categories immediately. So he thinks, okay, I can win TV the rest of the game and then hope that all of them bid less than $51 in the other category. Like, sure, he knows he's going to win TV the rest of the game. That's fine. That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
But $51, it feels very much like Bex in the previous round, especially when he goes, all right, the 3 of them are now working together. They don't want to help me out. He was just part of the 4-person plan. I don't know what he was thinking.
Yeah, I again, like I'm gonna ask again, and you're not gonna have an answer because we didn't see it in the episode. But how does everyone know he's going all in on TV? Because that was really the problem. If he could just say like, who knows what I'm doing, or maybe he says I'm going all in on TV, and then does it. Like Bedalia has a gajillion different ways of gaming this game, and to get like 2 or 3 medallions, or at least making it like a game of chance, where instead they're able to develop this foolproof plan to ice him out. And I just don't understand what happened in between point A and point B to allow them to just like know what Bedalia was doing.
Yep.
Yeah, and if Bedalia is thinking, I mean, he knows these players pretty well at this point. He saw how they played Diamond Dilemma. He saw how they played the previous round of this. They love doing the clean split. And if you're doing the clean split, you know it's going to be a clean split over 3 of them or 4 of them. You don't necessarily know which one they're going to do. But that's basically saying, hey, they're either going to be putting like 666 into each of these or like 500 into each of these. So I think if Bedalia had just done like a clean 800 here, 800 there, or like 900 here, 900 there, whatever, just lock in 2, he would have knocked out everyone from those 2 and essentially secured the win for himself, because then he's just betting against himself for the rest of the game. Like the win was so clearly in his grasps here. And I guess Benjamin was right that like Bedalia just wasn't clever enough to see it here. He was keen enough to know that he had to make the betrayal at the first round, but then just couldn't like math out himself how to take the win at the end, because as it ended up playing out, Bedalia ends up winning the TV, which also was super unfortunate that, like Cory said, the one that he chose is the one that everyone knew not to put any money in, because even then he would have still been in it if he had just chosen one of the other 3 that they did put their money in, because they would have basically gotten half of the tokens from this game.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I also thought it was kind of ridiculous, like how vulnerable the other players were and how much they left themselves open to being screwed, where like they were all agreeing to these ties, where I think I would have done a lot more of what Bedalia did in that first round, not even to betray them and to get all these tokens, to make sure I didn't get iced out. Like if I have $1 more than Benjamin, all of a sudden I know that I can go next round as well. So like I don't want to mistake like good strategy for bad. Like Bedalia playing poorly makes Ben's plan great. Now, did they have the forethought of like knowing Bedalia would play terribly in this way? I'm not exactly sure. Like generally I'm like, okay, they only show us so much on the episodes. I'm inclined to give credit to the whoever it worked out for because they might know more than we knew. But like, I don't know if their plan was good at all, but it definitely, worked out well.
I will say, I think that the part of this that we're really discounting is these podiums. I think that for a group that's working together, especially one that just had gotten betrayed by a member of their group, I would not be surprised if everyone was expected to write their numbers out publicly. And if you even left the group for a second and even like looked at the podium the wrong way, you basically burn the entire thing down. So I think that podium structure they had really disincentivized betrayals in this game.
I
Do
know
you
what we
think
need.
that they were able to block it?
How so?
Were they able
like covering
to
it?
like cover their things?
They could have, but then that would have been suspicious if Ken is trying to cover it. I mean, Benjamin and Charlotte would not have taken that kindly. If he was like, "Oh no, it's chill, it's chill. I'm just writing the numbers that we said so that you can't see them." What maybe could have worked, I don't know how many checks they had, but it would have been really fun if they had like a check book that they could then write the check in front of them, but they already had the check that they'd written previously that they're going to slip in. Like that might have been the way to do it.
How about invisible ink next time they play this game? Oh, it could be so good. On the other side of the pen, you take off the cap. Oh, let me cook. And you could change like a 9 into an 8, Like, ooh, I like that.
Right. Yeah. There's a trick to the checks. Or like you rip the check slightly and it's like, well, this wouldn't count in a real bank, so why would it count in the Chinese bank?
Oh, you spelled your name wrong, so it doesn't clear.
Right, yeah. Oh, yeah, you write someone else's. Right, I write down Benjamin's name on it. And
Ken's fraud. Like, I did check fraud to win the main match. It's like, whoa, that's cool.
Ultimately, what happens at the end of this round is everyone is now tied at 7, but Bedalia is iced out of 3 of the 4 places. He can now only get a max of 9 tokens, and it's pretty clear to me that one of the 3 of Ken, Ben, and Charlotte is going to be the winner of this main match, which leads us to round 3. Most exciting round of the whole game. They each agree to do 1, 1, and 1, which it accomplishes 2 things. I'm not even going to hate on them for this one, because by doing that, they're essentially just killing Bedalia. They're making sure that they each get up to 11 total. Bedalia, I then guess, is like 8 or 9. I'm not exactly sure. But it burns that round, ensures that Bedalia has like no room to come back, and leaves each of them with $6 left going into the final round. And the final round is it's a fun one because Benjamin and Charlotte, they're sitting there, they're thinking, they're like, oh my God, how do we win as a team? How do we do this? Like, can we still work together? Maybe we can ice out Ken. Like, I don't know. And then Ken says, or maybe we could play chaotically. And he absolutely does.
I was so
It was my favorite moment. Like one of my favorite moments, like when it is revealed that Ken won, I was like, oh, he went 1 and 1 and 3, and they all put their money in the, like, oh, that makes total sense. And then when it was revealed, the trick of what happened, I was like, that is brilliant. Like that is what I want in the Genius.
Yeah.
I would apologize to Ken. I was very unfamiliar with your game when he was prancing around the room being like, let's play chaotically. I'm like, what are you going to do, Ken? Like, let's be real. Like, now you're playing chaotically, round 4 of the penultimate episode. I'm like, okay, cool, dude. Let's see it. But honestly, putting aside his genius, plan, which Zach will discuss, like, that was awesome. Keach has a huge advantage playing as a group of 1 against a group of 2. Like, that, in this kind of setup, being in that 2-person group just hurts you a lot. And Ken being able to, like, people not knowing his plans or being able to like use his fake plan to convince other people. Like he was just in a better spot because again, he was able to break out of the matrix and understand that it was a solo game. And I just had a lot of respect for it.
Well, we even see it. We see Benjamin and Charlotte go off to a room by themselves, basically like forcing themselves to not even really be able to like think of a strategy that would win them the game because they're too busy in conversation with the exact person they're trying to beat. Whereas Ken goes in a room with Bedalia and Bex, who are both out of it and both just happy to hear whatever plan he has, essentially. So what we see, let's follow it in the order that we see it play out, and then we'll get into the actual what happened here. Ken decides to write his check in public. He is going to put $3 of his remaining 6, but it's really 5 because you can't go. It's a weird rule, but like you can't go to 0 in this game. You have to have at least 1 left.
Yeah, it's weird.
So he's going to play 3 of his remaining 5 on social media. Charlotte eggs him on. Charlotte's like, "Oh yeah, do that. That's awesome. We love that." Whereas the other 2 are like, "Oh no, don't do that. Don't do that, Ken. That's going to screw you over." I think Charlie even says, she's like, "I think he just wants to go to the death match." Like very overconfident here, very much like, like taking this at face value, Benjamin, even as he goes to put it in, Benjamin calls him out. It's like, "Oh, I saw you swap the check. I saw you swap the check." He proves, "No, I did not." Puts it in. Benjamin and Charlotte kind of like, they're so excited. They're like, "That's awesome. That gives us a lot of info." What then ends up happening is they both start to panic a little bit. Okay, how do I play this? Charlotte's like, "Okay, well, if he put 3 into social media, I gotta crush him. So I'll put 4 into social media." Benjamin, I believe, did the same thing, did 004, which makes no sense, but I think he just panicked and ran out of time. And then we finally get our results. The winner of the main match is Ken, who won newspaper and radio, while Ben and Charlotte both won social media. How is that possible? Well, we get a flashback, and we get our first flashback in the Genius UK history that actually meant something and was actually cool. What really happened there was that Ken put the checks in the order that they are read. So he put 3 in news, he put 2 in radio, and then in public, he put the 3 for social media, knowing that that check was going to bounce and forcing them to like invest all their money into social media so he can sweep up the other 2. My question to you guys, just to start this off, is do you think that either of you could have thought of this strategy?
No, I don't think I could have come up with it. I do love when they are introducing the rules of the game and they like talk about one specific mechanic, and I'm like, huh. I feel like if Ken did not pull his maneuver, we do not hear about bounce checks when they describe the rules. So like, I think it's very unintuitive. You have to ask a lot of clarifying questions to the dealers about exactly the order of everything. And Ken had the foresight to do it. So like, did not just, get one over on the other players. Definitely got one over on me.
Yeah, I think I wouldn't have been able to probably come up with the strategy, but I definitely would have sat there and analyzed why is he doing this publicly and what rules do I need to check out, because this makes no sense logically for a player to be doing this so publicly. And so I would like to think that I would have been able to recognize what was going on. But I think I'm also someone who's like, when it comes to these games, I immediately look of how can you break it? Where's the hole? What's the fun twist that you can do to impact the game somehow?
Well, so Danny, I had a question. Like in general, actually no, bounce to Zach. I want to ask this later. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I think that this is the kind of thing that we love about the Genius. This is exactly what we watch the show for, which is these like twist moments of we thought that this strategy was going one way, but really there was this whole thing behind the scenes that they hadn't shown us that like I don't think I could have thought of. Maybe like you, Danny. Like I think if I had seen Ken do it, like hopefully I could have maybe recognized like Ken's not dumb. Like he obviously has a plan up his sleeve. I don't know if I could have even recognized that. I think I might have just been like Charlotte and Benjamin, taking it at face value and put it in. But I was blown away. I thought this was phenomenal. This was the best moment of the season for me.
Yep.
Really, Ken is a player that I think started the game very slow and really hit his rock bottom in that Code Breakers game where Benjamin just controlled it and like basically set him up for demise. And I think I was very low on Ken from that point forward. But then in episode 4, we saw Ken pass off the black cube in Lights Off successfully. Safari Race, he dominates. Episode 6, Diamond's Dilemma or whatever. He has a good strategy, doesn't pay off, but still
he's not going to
doesn't get picked. Yep.
Is the lead strategist. And here he is winning the final main match. Do you think that Ken has really set himself up as like a front runner in this competition? Both as like a player and also as like kind of a fan favorite?
Yeah, I mean, I think generally, and just brief spoilers for the Genius in South Korean season 1. I'll wave my arms when I'm done spoiling. He reminds me a lot of Jinho's story arc of like pretty rough in the main matches, is not doing very well at the start, surviving, picks up momentum, starts winning a main match or two in the middle, proves himself as a fierce deathmatch competitor, and all of a sudden you get to the final 3, he wins that main match, and the 2 people are running all the other main matches have to compete against each other to face him. And I think it's just like this underdog who no one really underestimated. Like he's clearly like one of the strongest competitors, and everyone will recognize that. But in the Genius, you got to knock these people out. Like they're not just going to be voted out, so you have to figure it out. I think when you look at him and Charlotte, there's almost like this perception of, Charlotte was kind of more in control. Ken is more of the underdog. Their resumes are like the same to me. Right. So I don't think there's a clear front runner. It's basically who do you think is better at the games we saw? But I think he has proven himself to be, if not the best player of the season, firmly in that top tier.
Yeah. I'm interested to know like what made them go, Ken is so smart at these. Like, is it just like his profession? Was it the way that he carried himself? Because from early on, I think like episode 2 or 3, people were terrified of going against Ken in a death match. They're like, we're not going to go against Ken. He gets these games. He understands these games. He's a scary player. And people had this big perceived threat of Ken, and like Benjamin wanted to take a shot at him, which was smart. But I definitely like sitting now, it's like, yes, this makes sense. This is the Ken that everybody was scared of, and I'm glad we're seeing it come to fruition.
Zach, can I ask one more question about the main match itself and Ken's strategy?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think what I liked so much about it was not only did he come up with his game-breaking solution, but the fake plan of putting the 3 in that one. Was it social media? Which one was it?
Mm-hmm.
So putting 3 in social media is kind of hard to figure out how to beat that. Going 0-0-4, even 1-1 or 1-0-4, isn't a clean win by any means. And I think the beauty of it is he almost put the other players on like a side quest where they had to go figure out how to beat this fake plan, so they couldn't actually like come up with a plan of their own. But like, even if that was his real strat, what do you do?
Well, I actually don't think it's that hard to beat this, assuming that is what Ken really did. All you really got to do is let's say that Ben and Charlotte, for whatever reason, want to do this like perfect team victory, right? All that they would hypothetically have to do there is they could each put 4 into social media, and then they put, I would say, like 1 in this, like 1 in, what are the other 2? Newspaper, 1 in radio, right there, right? And then the only things that Ken could have done there
can't do that, though. They don't have money for that. They need 1 in the bank. They had $5 to spend.
No, I know. But I'm saying that like Benjamin would have put 1 in newspaper and Charlotte would have put 1 in radio.
But then they would have all tied. So it would have been a 1-1 and then a tied with 4-4.
No, so then what would have happened? So what would have happened in that case, right? If they had done that, is it would have been they would have had the 4, so they would have won social media clean. Ken would have lost. All that Ken could do is either do 2 in one of the 2 or 1 in each. If Ken had put 1 in each, then Ben and Charlotte win and they tie because they win social media and then they each win tied with Ben for the other one. So that's a tie for them. If Ken had chosen to put 2 into newspaper or 2 into radio, then the winner is whoever put their 1 in the one that Ken didn't choose. So it's basically a 50-50 shot between Benjamin and Charlotte. One of them is winning, one of them is going to the death match. Either way, not bad odds. So I think that like Ken kind of did it in a strategy where their best play was clear. It's just it wasn't the real strategy. It was a made up plan to get them to do that so that he could sweep up. What they could have done is they could have done 3 and 2 and just let Ken have that one. That's also a world. But now we're starting to
see the tiebreaker mechanic. I feel like I'm always curious. Like what?
So I think that the tiebreaker mechanic was if you had money left, whoever had the most money left, because that for me is the only reason that Charlotte didn't spend her last dollar.
Well, they had to preserve $1, and it made it seem like Benjamin didn't spend his last one out of that it was an accident. So
They had 6.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would have
But,
been
like-
weird. I don't know how they would have, because assuming that they did like the plan I just laid out, right?
Mhm.
They would have each had a single dollar left. So I don't even know how they would do that tiebreaker at that point.
I don't think they
It would
know.
have been,
They called David Tennant.
Yep.
yeah, they would have figured something out. My final question with this Ken moment, that was such a great moment. Should we got extreme ways earlier in the season for like the worst moment of the season. Literally, the Monfy death match is where we got extreme ways. Should this have not been the extreme ways moment? Like, is this not the biggest whiff from production to not give us that?
I think Ken kind of
Right.
ruined it, and all credit to Ken. He made this episode what it was. But like, instead of like Sangman like looking up at the camera and seeing the glisten in his eye, Ken was like, "Yeah, I bounced the check. Yep, bounced the check. So I got the points, and I bounced the check, and you guys saw me put it in, but I actually didn't. So and like,
Yeah, but they didn't need to
Yeah.
air that. They could have, hid that for
They
months.
leave
They could have
everything else out of
found
the
him
episode, so-
smiling.
But yeah, I mean, honestly, I think you made a good point when I was talking to you yesterday. It was Zach was like, they need more dubstep on the show. Like they just need like more energy and music, and like I think that moment could have been a lot more hype. I don't want to poo-poo on it. It was awesome or whatever.
Do you remember, Danny? Do you remember in The Genius? I think it's like season 1, episode 11 or something like that, where they had that one like random like it was the one where like all of the random like pedestrians came in,
The
like just the
5-5
normal people. Yeah, 5-5 game. And there was that one girl that every single time she would come on screen, the thing would go like so sexy. Dun-dun-dun-dun-dun.
I do not, but now I need to go back and rewatch this because
Oh,
it
it's great.
sounds like I'm missing out.
And no, yeah, they would have such fun music cues, and it was so ridiculous. And like, I remember like when she would walk by, they would show like Sangmin and Jinho with like the blushing faces, like
I feel like they've done a little bit of, I don't know if y'all have seen Devil's Plan, but I feel like they're doing some good music stuff over on Devil's Plan that they feel like could do with Genius UK.
I also do wonder, and I think so much of our like, oh, I wish the Genius UK was more like, or the Genius Game was more like South Korean Genius. I don't know if it works the same way. I don't know if it comes off corny, right? Like there is, I don't want to say like a cultural divide, but just like the way they edit some of these reality shows, there's a certain voice in these Korean variety shows that I just don't know if it works in the UK. And if people watching ITV after the football match would be like, what the hell are they doing? This is so weird. So like,
I mean,
I don't know.
Not sure, not like the so sexy whatever. Like they don't
Yeah.
actually need that. But in terms of like higher energy music, the dubstep, like I mean, Survivor has like epic music that really makes stuff exciting. Amazing Race,
Big
has
Brother
epic
too,
music.
yeah.
Yep.
Big Brother. I mean, you joke, but some of the Big Brother music actually can, like when they try, actually can like set like a tone very well on that show. Like when it comes to the evictions, when it comes to like the intense moments,
Yeah.
in a way that I think Genius Game doesn't have, but the South Korean version had so much of. Anyways, we see the game end. Bex is gone. They find it's like so weird how like they just have her hanging around in the house for the rest of the episode, because it would have been awkward to like ask her to leave, but now they're like, all right, Bex, get out of here, like we're good. And we have our final death match of Benjamin, Charlotte, and Bedalia. Before we even get into the death match itself, I do want to ask here with these three, 2 of them are going home. Who are you rooting for to be in the finals?
I'm personally rooting for Charlotte. I think Charlotte has played a really fun game. I think that Charlotte, for me, is the strongest of the 3 when it comes to strategy. And I also go, all right, who has a chance of beating Ken? I think Benjamin has proved his worth in some, but I'm like, a Ken versus Benjamin isn't as exciting as a Charlotte versus Benjamin or a Charlotte versus Ken for me. And then Bedalia, I was like, yeah, you're going to be walked all over. In my opinion, I was like, maybe there's some crazy twists that you might win the social game if there is a social game in the final 3. But for me, I was like, I'm really rooting for Charlotte here.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was rooting for Benjamin at the end of it, just because I think Benjamin and Ken represent such opposite sides of what the season has been, and I think it would have been a really fun showdown. There's no ounce of me that is upset about Charlotte coming out on top too. She was just so fun, and she was giving a lot of Kyung Ran in this episode of just like a little bit of passive aggressiveness and like the stare, and I feel like that intimidating factor that she carries was like really on full display. And Bedalia, I think this is one of those moments where him besting Benjamin and Charlotte in the death match, eliminating them after they just dogged on him the entire episode, would have been an incredible moment and would have put a damper on the finale. So like, I could have been happy with that, but I do think either Charlotte and Benjamin hopefully is going to give us a great final.
Yeah, had either of you guys, and this is a tangent, but have either of you guys noticed throughout this episode specifically, like Charlotte's laugh? Does that mean
so
anything
fake.
to you guys?
It's so funny to me.
No.
Oh my God.
She'll end like a sentence and she'll be like, it'll be like, I would bluff if I were you. Like she ends, it's like, I think like just an affect that she has, but she'll like say something that's like really shady. Like for example, she goes like, I've got 2 strong opponents. Benjamin is the one to watch out for. Like,
oh my God. The
Now I'm gonna notice
JKs
that.
in her texts would be so frustrating. Like she texts you and then ends with JK. I'm like, I don't think you're kidding. Like I don't believe that's happening.
That's the energy I get a little bit, is her texting like, I mean, whatever, lol. And it's like, well, what does the lol mean? What? No, but yeah, her laugh. Danny, when you watch the finale,
it's all I'm gonna see. I'm literally gonna be watching, and I'm gonna be like, "Oh, now I see it nonstop."
It's nonstop. This little giggle that she does at the end of like when she says something that she doesn't really mean. It's like, it's awesome. Benjamin, I will also say, Benjamin says he feels robbed from the main match, which to me, I'm like, why? Why were you robbed? What, what did you do in this main match that made you deserving of the win? Like Ken fully took that win and like earned it. I think that just talking about who I was rooting for, I think I was probably rooting for Charlotte by the end of this. Benjamin, I think, has been so much fun TV. I think that he's a good example of someone who his real strength has been his prep, his knowledge of the genius and the knowledge of the games. But when we've seen him kind of presented with these like decisions that he has to like make for himself that aren't based on something from the previous, we've seen him falter quite a bit. We saw him falter a lot in Safari Race. We saw him falter with Sane Picture Hunt, like that initial decision, even though he was able to win it back at the end. And then falter here again with these like final decisions he was making in the main match. All right, let's get into this death match. It's called Dice Deception. You've got 2 dice, which, as every dice is, it's from 0 to 5.
For no reason.
Yeah, I didn't. It made it so complicated for no reason. Like I know what the distribution is on like a 1 to 6 dice, like what the odds are for everything, thanks to Catan. But yeah, I know what my red numbers are. But yeah, it's 0 to 5. It's so weird. Everyone is trying to roll each of 0 to 10 first. Each player rolls both dice. They claim a number, then reveal one of their dice. If nobody questions it, the number is locked in. But then each player also gets 5 bluff tokens and 1 garnet. If they catch someone using one of their bluff tokens or the garnet, they can remove 1 number. But if that person is telling the truth, then the accuser loses a number chosen by the other person. And then the last rule is that the 0 cannot be removed. But if it's caught bluffing, they can remove 2 from it. Seems like a fun death match. I'm already into it. Did you guys like it? Like just the idea of it?
Yeah, it was a cool idea. I don't know if they got the idea from TikTok, but the close the box, rolling the dice is like a trend on there. At least it was a trend, and they kind of like. I think that's usually when death matches are at their best, when you take a game that people are somewhat familiar with and then add, lying, deception, their little twist on it. Tactical Utenori, if only we knew how to play Utenori at the start. But I thought it was a great death match. I don't think it worked with 2 people. I think with 3 people, the game still is kind of fundamentally broken, but like, I don't care. Like it's fundamentally broken in the same way for everybody, and it was fun to watch. So like, I'll take it. It was great.
In what way is it fundamentally broken?
I think it's the strategy is superseded by like it's just everyone's going to threaten each other, right? And that's kind of how it's always going to break down. I'm glad they didn't make it so like, because you have 5 doubt tokens, you could use 1 extra garnet. If they allowed you to use all your garnets, it's actually broken. But like, I think when it becomes all about just managing your doubts, I don't want to say like nullifies the strategy a bit, but like maybe it shifts what the spirit of the game is.
And I think you could bluff all at the beginning. You go 0-10 and then 9-2. And like at some point, you might have, let's say, 6 left where the other people are down to 1. They're going to be having to waste their tokens. Well, they're not going to waste it on you as you've got the 6 left. Like we saw with Vidalia, had more left, like had 3 or 4 numbers left, and then was able to narrow it down to 2. The strategy could have just been, hey, you take out your big numbers going all the way down to the common numbers. And even if you're behind by 4, the other 2 players are going to have to go head to head with the 1 each round. And for me, that was what felt broken about the game, is like I felt there was a clear strategy.
But can I think that this may be what I like about it, right? Is I could see many instances of this game playing out where somebody has that strategy and the other person doesn't, like if this was played out, let's say, again, no offense to Bex, but like, I don't think you say it's a clear strategy. I don't think Bex is coming up with that strategy. Right. And that could be something that for a game that's just introduced to them really rewards the better player for seeing what's essentially a flaw in the game. Again, if we did like Genius Season 4, like All Stars or whatever, like maybe you don't want to bring it back for that one because now the game's been broken in like a monorail style. But for this round in particular, I love when they have stuff like that. That's
agreed.
Yeah, like, you know what I loved about the game? The amount that your personality played a role in how the game played out, not just in how you acted, but in how people perceived you. I think going into the match, Vidalia is in the strongest position because essentially a huge part of the meta of this game is convincing the others that you're willing to die and you're willing to not play self-interestedly. And Benjamin and Charlotte can't do that. And like Charlotte certainly like tries, and I think she succeeds, but Vidalia, both Benjamin and Charlotte were like, this guy might just give the other person the win, which gives you immense power because now all of a sudden you get to save your tokens and force the other people to whittle down their totals.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, it could also flip to the opposite, where it's someone awarding the win to someone where, let's say it's the other 2 people, one person has the bluff token left and both of them bluff. That person decides who wins the game. And so I did love the design of the game, had the like gamified aspect to it, but then also had the social aspect that did feel a little bit like, one person might be deciding the winner right here, a little bit based off of the social connections and how well you've played this game. And I love Charlotte's confessional where she's like, it seems like Vidalia and Benjamin are working together. I need to do something to get me in good graces with Vidalia in this moment right now and try and change things up. And we see her make the deal that I'm like, that is so smart.
Yeah. That basically is what we'll see will ultimately win her the game. To go through real quick, we don't need to go through like every round or whatever. We see Benjamin and Charlotte. They openly bluff 0 round 1. That's smart. There's clear strategy to that because then like this is when you can't remove it and you can't feel the punishment of the 0. So that 0 thing really doesn't play much of a role other than I guess just showing the difference between Benjamin and Charlotte and how they're viewing it versus Vidalia, who just like misses this at the beginning of the game. We then see a little bit more. We then skip about 90% of the game.
I was going to say,
we're being
like,
honest.
I was so mad. I was like, oh, they dropped the ball again. Oh my God, we are already at 9 numbers apiece. And I do get why they did it because I think that middle portion is pretty uninteresting.
And then we see throughout this, Charlotte's getting a little bit worked up about feeling like Benjamin and Vidalia are working together. Charlotte then kind of starts playing a little bit harder, where she says she blackmails Benjamin into using one of his tokens on Vidalia. Basically goes, I'm not using it. So like you have more, you got to use it on him. And then we see that Benjamin begins to do the strategy where he just starts playing it safe, where he's not going to be bluffing anymore. And he's just putting out what he has, just waiting until he gets that 8, which unfortunately will never come.
I felt for Benjamin in this moment because I think there's so much talk about the brilliance of Charlotte in this death match, and that's worth discussing. We will discuss it more. I think Benjamin gave himself, like, I don't know the probability of it. I don't know how many times he rolled the dice. He gave himself such a good shot at just winning. 8's not a crazy number to get with these 2 dice. It's not the highest probability, but it's reasonable. And the amount of times he rolled, like, we simulate this a couple more times working at the exact same way. Benjamin wins like 45% of them. So, like, his strategy, I think, maybe not as like you can't control it. Like there is an element of randomness to it, but essentially like probability should play out in his favor eventually. It just didn't. So like credit to Benjamin. He had a winning plan that did not work.
So the odds of getting a 8 on these dice, by the way, is fitting enough 8.33%. So you can multiply that over however many times.
Yeah.
Sure, Christian Hubicki, rest in peace. He is not responding to my texts right now, so I'm worried that
Interesting.
something must have happened to him.
Hmm.
But he would tell you that 8% means that, you know, he's guaranteed to win after like 12 or so rolls. But let's just get into this final round. Like you said, Danny, there's a really good deal that's made between Bedalia and Charlotte that forces Benjamin to drain all of his bluffs. We get to this final round, okay, where Bedalia has 9 numbers left, only needs 1 more. Charlotte has 9 numbers left, only needs 1 more. Benjamin has 8 numbers left with no bluffs. The other 2 have 1 bluff left. And what this game now turns into is essentially a prisoner's dilemma. Do you guys want to hear the prisoner's dilemma? Do you want me to break it down even
Explain
further?
it. Take it away. What is it?
Yeah, please.
So I'm not going to explain the whole concept of prisoner's dilemma. You can watch Survivor 41, episode 1 if you want that. Whole disaster. But this is how it's going to break down in this game. Okay, if both players bluff, then Benjamin, like use their bluffs, then Benjamin is going to win because they're going to each go down to 8. Benjamin will go up to 9 here because no one's going to bluff on him. And then and then there's no bluffs left. He can say whatever he wants. Benjamin wins if both of them use their bluffs. If Charlotte bluffs, Bedalia does not, Charlotte wins. Simple enough. If Bedalia bluffs and Charlotte does not, Bedalia wins. And if neither of them bluff, Charlotte is going to win this game based on turn order and based on the fact that it happened to land on her round. So, well, basically, Charlotte's win condition here is Bedalia does not bluff her. Benjamin's win condition here is both of them bluff. Bedalia's win condition, which is the hardest to achieve, is that he bluffs Charlotte without her bluffing him back. We see both of them. They're holding their garnet out.
So good.
Ready to drop it. It's counting down. It's going boop, boop, boop. Time's up. He drops it. And Charlotte instantly is like, that was after time. That was after time. That was after time. That was after time. And, yeah. And then Bedalia goes, what happens now? What happens? What did you guys think was about to happen from that?
I think that this is one of the examples where we didn't see like the tiebreaker mechanic, but then they kind of allude to it where Charlotte has that confessional that's like, hey, turn order really matters. And so I think Charlotte knew what was going on and understood the dynamic of what was going on. And maybe Bedalia was just like maybe counting in his mind like 1, 2, 3 and trying to drop it right before the 10 seconds. Cause
I kind of thought he got it, honestly.
It was close.
I'm always really wary close. After watching some of these traders timers. Like, I don't know how genuine, like what we saw is exactly the timer counting down and when he placed it. I want to love you, Bedalia. I have some criticisms of how he played this ending.
So funny because I actually don't. I love Bedalia's gameplay here.
So let's disagree. So what I agree with you about, Danny, is I think Bedalia did not understand the tiebreaker mechanics. I think he thought I'm either going to win by betraying Charlotte here if I get it in the last second, or the producers are going to have to figure out what happens next. Maybe we go to extra rounds. Who knows what happens? Which I think is why he was late rather than early. Because Agreed. I don't think he thought his life was hanging in the balance whatsoever. I thought he was like, all right, if I screw this up, we go to a tiebreaker. We go from there. Yep. Because I find this inexcusable, and I think he's in a tough spot, and he got very close to winning this death match.
You find this inexcusable? He was like half a second late. It's
Zach, if he doesn't
he
place
knew
the
he
token,
was losing.
If he doesn't token, it's over. Like binary, it's over. And he puts it in late. He's seeing the timer. He's hearing the timer. Like what I think happened, and again, like there's worse moves to make, is he panicked and he froze and he didn't place it because he
Yep.
didn't fully understand the lay of the land. I don't think he knew the strategy you're talking about, Zach. I think he was trying to screw Charlotte and win the game on the spot. I believe that, but I don't think he understood the spot he was in. And like, you just got to place it down. Like, you lose if you are late, and he was
Yep.
late with the timer in front of him, and that's crazy.
But do we not agree that his win condition here is so niche and so small, which is he needs to be able to place his without Charlotte placing hers. If he places it too early, then she is going to place his. Mutual destruction. They're both out of the game.
And
The
Benjamin
only
wins.
Yeah. So when you're talking about like you don't know if Bedalia like was seeing the whole prisoner's dilemma of it all or the turn order, I don't maybe not. I don't even care because what I care about is that Bedalia, whether it was through his strategy, which I think is very possible, or just intuition, he was making the right play, which is I need to get this on at the last possible second so that Charlotte does not get hers onto mine. Because if she gets hers onto mine, it's over anyways. So he made the play. He was like half a second too late. Ultimately ends up losing. But like I can't fault him for getting the timing off slightly when everything else about the play I feel was his only play. Danny, where do you land?
That's a
on the
valid point. Like I actually am thinking of it as like, yeah, you're right. It was Benjamin winning, it was Bedalia winning by placing the token, or it was
Charlotte winning by 900.
Charlotte winning, because I think if I was Bedalia, I wouldn't have bluffed right there
Mhm.
because Charlotte went first. Bedalia would have used his token on Charlotte, and then Charlotte would had to have decided who's winning the game, Bedalia or Benjamin.
Well, she would have been out of tokens, though, right?
No, she would have still had hers
Oh,
because
yeah, no,
Bedalia
so-
wouldn't have bluffed. And so
Yeah.
for me, that was a better situation probably for Bedalia, is going, hey, is Charlotte going to pick
Interesting.
Benjamin to win or Bedalia to win? And it becomes a jury vote.
Don't you think she picks Benjamin though? I feel like she picks Benjamin every day of the week.
It's more up in the air than what happened. And like
Uh-huh.
I think that there's two parts of it. The first part is like I think it's very clear he didn't understand the tiebreaker mechanic. I don't think that's, and we'll ask him the question for sure. I think it's an interesting one. But like I think the show made it pretty clear he didn't get it, and his reaction after of like, what now? Guys, what now? Like that part of it I thought was super obvious. And also like you have to make Charlotte beat you. You have to execution test her. And like when you don't place down the token, it's Bedalia failing.
He was execution testing her. He was doing it at the last second. He was off. He was trying to do it the last possible section. He was making the play that you want him to play. His timing, your criticism of Bedalia, honestly, is that his
countdown
timing's
from
off.
3.
3, 2, 1, 0.
Her hand. Like,
It's
that's it.
If I'm trying,
know the timer.
It's like, but I rewatched it, Corey. It was not them going 3, 2, 1. It was them going boop, boop.
All right. Or they could have used the strategy to go to a roll off because they could have just kept telling the truth and this not have happened. And
But they had harder numbers left, right? Than Benjamin.
He had a 3 or 2.
Yeah.
He had a 2, right? And then Benjamin had an 8.
Yeah,
that might be the exact same, actually.
I get what you're saying. He had a 2 and she didn't. Yeah, it's the same. I get what you're saying, Danny, and I think that there's validity to that of having Charlotte. Like, if you do tell the truth there, you are putting it to a jury vote. I think everything we've seen throughout this season indicates that Charlotte would have chosen Benjamin.
Or
I mean, she just
you make it not a jury vote. I realized, like, sitting right here, that what Benjamin would have done is he could have bluffed, right? But if Benjamin had bluffed, Bedalia tells the truth, Charlotte has to use her token on Benjamin. So Benjamin would have just told the truth. And then what would have happened? It would have just been a roll off to get your number.
Well, no, because they could just lie at this. If everyone's token's gone, then it's not a roll off anyway. It's turn order, which I guess
Bedalia would have been up next. And Bedalia would have won.
Explain that one more time, because Benjamin was at 8 is the thing. Benjamin was not at 9.
But he would have been at 9 after that round.
So he would have been at 9 after that round. And so it would have been Benjamin and Bedalia. And then Benjamin's going first, right? Charlotte has 2 left. Benjamin has 2 options. Tell the truth or bluff. If he bluffs, Bedalia doesn't bluff because Charlotte has to use her one garnet or Benjamin wins the game.
But Bedalia would be placing first, though, so he wouldn't be able to see Benjamin's bluffing or not bluffing. Like, right? Like, he would have had to put his down without seeing what Benjamin did.
Gotcha. So if Bedalia told the truth,
then
turn order. I don't know. I think there's some
it's true.
Mechanics that actually would have gone a little farther.
I'm not poo-pooing the idea. I think that this kind of shows how difficult of a position this was for the 3 players in it, because us,
Agreed.
with all this foresight, we're still like not fully able to like wrap our head around. I think there's something there. And if you're correct and that was like the game-winning one, please comment.
I'll figure it out afterwards.
Yeah. Tell me that I'm an idiot. Please do, though, tell Cory that he's wrong here, though, and that we should have all the respect for Bedalia and that he absolutely knew what he was doing there.
I suppose, and I do want to have some empathy for Bedalia, because if you have like the hand-eye coordination of like Bedalia or Zach, like I could understand why you wouldn't be able to place it down like exactly in the right moment.
Yeah. Of a doctor.
I don't know if he's like a surgeon. Maybe his bedside manner really comes through. I just want to shout out Charlotte for a second, because like ultimately the reason that she won this death match was she identified Bedalia as the most important piece on the board and trash talked him to hell in confessional and then trashed him in the game. And I think it was so often in these reality shows, it comes down to who can scoop up that one key piece who might not be playing entirely optimally. I know we disagree exactly how optimally he was playing. I think he gave himself a great shot of winning, but Charlotte's winning move was like staring down Bedalia, getting him on her side, and then making him freeze, making him pause, right? And like she made it happen, and I really think that is a result of not necessarily her genius level strategy, that was there too, but just her demeanor. She was just serious. She was a serious competitor in this game, and she earned her way to that final. It was awesome.
Agreed.
No, absolutely. And so we do end up seeing timer goes off. Charlotte is the winner. Charlotte and Ken will be facing off, but before we get into that face off, we do have our 2 boots here. We're losing. We've already talked so much about him. Let's talk about Bedalia. Do we have any final thoughts? I feel like this episode for me personally was like a whole new Bedalia. It completely changed my perception of him. How'd you guys feel about Bedalia here in these final moments of the show?
I think Bedalia was great. Yeah. What a fun episode for him. Good confessionals, fun sneakiness of him, like Cory, you mentioned earlier, of him actually striking and executing. And it made for great TV.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not for a lack of trying this episode. Like if Bedalia came in and iced out Bex and then tried to work with the team and was betrayed by Charlotte, Ken, or Benjamin, it would have been like devastating. Like what a lame ending to Bedalia's story. I think this is almost the perfect ending of he does strike and he does overcome this hurdle we didn't think he would overcome. And then in the death match gets so close to winning and does it. And like, ultimately he played the game the way we all wanted him to play. And he was outplayed by players who were just a little bit better. And that gap is tiny. So like, I did not expect to have this eulogy for Bedalia after last episode. He gave it his all. And I think he was more than a positive presence on this season.
Yeah. I think that he had a bad episode in episode 4, but he was always fighting for the token of life. He was always in it. He never wanted to go into that death match. And I think he's one of those guys that you put him on basically any reality show, whether it was Survivor, Big Brother, Amazing Race, like he's going to do well just because he's so multifaceted.
Mm-hmm.
And he does actually have that drive for the win that I think some of the players didn't have this season. So here at the end, nothing but respect for our doctor / DJ. And you are no Bowie Jane, sir. Let me just tell you that.
Close to the same placement.
Yeah, Bowie Jane actually did do a little bit better than Bedalia.
It depends how you tie for third, maybe. I'd give him.
Yeah. I feel like he got 4th, honestly, because I feel like our third.
You still have a Monfi third,
yeah.
Third. He's 4th.
No, because I feel like, and I do think there's a lot of Bedalia and again genius season 1 spoilers just for half a second. Bedalia and Sungyu comparisons of these players who were playing for the win. We're a little bit like hectic, and mostly musicians. That's really where I'm getting from.
Yeah.
And then we've got our third placer who was so dominant throughout a lot of this season. His name is Benjamin. And yeah, I'm shocked to lose Benjamin here. I feel like he has been such a main character throughout this whole show. He's been messy, he's been smart, he's been fun. How do you guys feel about Benjamin?
I mean, star of the season, in my opinion. There's a few stars of the season, but I think he really was, I would say, the best casting choice they made. Bex is probably right behind him, just in terms of like, he would be a star on any show he's on. He'd be a main character on any show he's on. I think what frustrated a lot of people about Benjamin was how he was playing these games. But to be fair, I don't think this cast would have been very open to playing a more deceptive game, right? Like Benjamin, especially with the stink he got on himself in those earlier episodes, I think he had to adapt, and he played this more team-based, majority alliance, loyalty-based game, and he got really close to getting to the final. Like, I think there's things to pick apart. There's definitely things to complain about some of how these main matches worked out, but like just such a fun presence. It's so rare that the dominant strategic player, at least in terms of like influencing the strategy, is also the best character or up there in terms of being the best character. It's a bummer we don't see him in the final, but I do think being in that, Rob Sesternino spot, like Rob got us right before the end, is a very fitting ending as well.
Yeah, it's definitely fun. Benjamin's a huge fan of these games. He has played some live reality games. So check out Greenhouse Season 7 if you want to see some more of Benjamin, which is super fun. But yeah, just a character. His outfits were amazing. Like he was definitely very strategic and just a fan of the fans. And I am someone who always roots for when somebody is a super fan on a show and comes in and actually does well. And just gives us like fun moments.
Or doesn't.
Hey,
it doesn't matter to me.
Emmy nominated episode, Zach. I don't know what you're
100%. And I would still say, Zach, you're a star Survivor.
Oh, that's right. Thank you.
Also, one last note on Benjamin. Kind of walks like Kyung-hoon. I don't know. I just recognized this, like watching him this episode. Just very upright and like walking around. I'm like, he's up to something.
Yeah.
So,
no, I really enjoyed Benjamin throughout this whole season. I feel like he had his big moment with episode 3 where we kind of looked at it and we were like, is this just going to be the Benjamin show now? Like, is he going to just like boss and rob his way to the end? It definitely was not that. I think that we did see the wheels fall off in terms of his gameplay a little bit towards the end, especially in that like episode 5, 6, and now 7. I think that like where he had the fandom and he had the like the instinct, but when it came to like just the gut decision makings at certain points, he just wasn't able to make the right call, which made him a fun, flawed character. I think that if Benjamin was a lot better at these games, the show itself is a lot worse, actually. And I enjoyed watching him play from the bottom a lot. I think it was a fun place. I think he got like very like I said, very sassy at certain points in this episode, which was a lot of fun. And he's definitely one of the most memorable people from the season, and it's just been a joy to have him. I'm really happy that we got him.
And I'm not certain about like the logistics of his citizenship and whatnot, but I know I think he's American.
What are you trying to get him deported or something? Like, what are we?
I think it makes him eligible for a lot of shows that we all watch. And I think he would be a super easy addition to any cast, any show. Just throw him on there if he wants to stay in the UK verse. Throw him on Traitors. Like, I think it's just a hit, just a certified hit of a casting choice.
Yeah. No, he was really fun. And also, I feel like you scared him away, Cory, of commenting in our comment sections. Like, I used to love the Benjamin comments.
And now we got Bedalia.
Cory would like yeah. Cory would like be like making fun of it. And I don't get why. Because like as a fan, like I love that stuff.
You want to have this discussion right now?
Come back, Benjamin. We miss you. We miss you.
Hey, we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, so that leaves us with the final 2 entering this final what's it called? The game, the grand final or
match,
something? Final match. For people who don't know how the Genius Finals work, what it is we're going to see 3 death matches played out. The eliminated players are going to return as essentially a jury and each decide different advantages in the death matches to give out to the player of their choice, essentially their champion. And so it seems like the games that we're going to see here are RHAP, a game that we've never seen before, that's never been in any version of Genius. And then if they do get to a third game, because it's best 2 out of 3, a mystery game. I got to ask both of you, who's winning this?
I think Charlotte's winning jury.
Okay,
And
really?
so I think so. I think some of her relationships, I think people will perceive Ken as like the top dog, and I think people will want to maybe help Charlotte, in my perception.
Mm-hmm.
I just think he has, like, in this episode, it felt like Bex and Bedalia were rooting him on, and he was always part of the gathering the naive players. So I think he might like sweep. And by the way,
True.
every time we tried to predict this in other Genius seasons, there's no rhyme or reason to it. Like usually it's all over the place. Well, I would not be surprised if they try to make this fair. You know what I mean?
Let's do it. Let's do it super fast. Okay, Paul. Who knows? But who knows? Literally, Scott. I think is Charlotte.
Mm-hmm.
I think.
Yeah, and they were tight.
Yeah. They were really tight. I think he's got to give it to Charlotte. I think Basha is gonna be Ken. Ken beat her in the death match. I think that like. So let's say 1-1 there, and who knows about Paul.
Yeah.
Amonfi.
Ken.
I think
Ken. He does respect the game. He won't be like bitter, but I will say, like in all of our exit press, everyone is always surprised by the way Charlotte is talking about people in confessional and the way she's playing. So like, I don't think they know the full scope of Charlotte's game to be bitter towards her. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I also I will say I think that in the preview we might have seen Amonfu choose Charlotte.
Okay.
So I think that's a Charlotte one, and then who's after that? That's India. India, I think, is Charlotte.
Easy.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Allison.
I think this is where we get the Ken votes. They all work together in Safari Race.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's give that one to Ken, and then we've got Bex. Bex, I think is a Ken vote.
Bedalia. I mean, he respects Charlotte a ton, but it's up in the air.
Yeah. Now I think maybe Bedalia gives it to Ken and Ben gives it to Charlotte. And
it's probably a split. And it all comes down to Paul, the alpha male.
Yeah. What does he do? I think Paul probably respects that Charlotte won the one match he was in.
And Ken is the Garnet lead, right? I
assume. Well,
after getting
Charlotte won more main matches, so who knows? And if she gets the death match Garnets passed on to her, I mean, Charlotte definitely has the
whoever wins that final death match usually does.
So I think Charlotte will have that actually.
Yeah, you're right.
But so who are you guys? Did you answer who you guys want to win?
So Danny said Charlotte was your pick, right?
Yeah.
Look, I think based on what we've seen, I would favor Ken. I think story-wise, Charlotte feels like the winner, in my opinion. It just feels like the vibe. But like from what we've seen, I think Ken dominated in Poker Face, which is a classic deathmatchy kind of deathmatch. And Charlotte's performance in this dice game is like impressive. It just won't really come up again, most likely. We know RHAP is happening, or was it same or different? And it feels like something Ken would be really good at, and Charlotte's just more of an unknown quantity. And whatever that, mystery game is, not the mystery game, like the one we saw, but we don't know what it is, seems very Settlers of Catan, Go, like very death matchy. And I think Ken, that's his department. So based purely on what we've seen, I'd favor Ken. Based on the story, I'd favor Charlotte.
Yeah, I think that we're really here. And again, spoilers for Genius season 1 finale. I'll wave my hands when I finish. But I think it really is a very similar Jinho versus Kyungran, where you've got the player who maybe had the higher highs but the lower lows in Ken versus the player who has been more consistently solid in the majority alliances, getting the group wins and stuff with Charlotte. And waving, but
I forgot to wave when I did mine after people been muted for 40 minutes.
Oh god, well, that's such a pain in the ass. All right, whatever. They'll figure it out.
I'm still talking about Jin.
All right, guys, if you got to this point, Cory, wait for them right now. All right. We just finished Cory's spoiler section. No, go back, guys. Cory screwed up and just go like 2 minutes ahead. You'll be fine. All right. Thank you. Anyways, yeah, I think that Ken does have the edge when it comes to like the pure games. I don't know if we've seen, I mean, we've only seen them both in one death match, I guess. But we know Ken's this blood on the clock tower guy. We know he's a board gamer. Like, I do give him the edge, but I'm happy with either of them taking the win here.
I also feel like Safari Race gives me deathmatch vibes. Just like the way it broke down, 2 teams placing the tokens. Like, Ken was also really good in that spot. Like, I think we just have more data.
Yeah. Okay, so we have, before we get into our deathmatch here, we do have to give out the Sangi. It goes to the player who we think had the most fun in the episode, not necessarily played the best, but was the most entertaining in this episode and like played the hardest, essentially. Who do you think that is?
I think there's legitimately 4 candidates for it. I think Benjamin's the only one who I wouldn't say, which is funny because he probably won all the other ones. Like, he's got enough.
Come on, Bex is not. What do you mean,
dude? Here's why I'm saying it. She's not going to get it, but she round 1 a plan to deceive everyone else, and she was the one who started quickly, and the plan did not work, and it was a disaster. But she was playing like she wanted the Sangi. It just didn't work. But Bedalia, of course, has his round 1 maneuver. Charlotte, basically in the death match is where I would give her the credit. But the answer for me is very easily Ken. He gave us the genius moment on the penultimate episode of The Genius. I think it's hard to give it to anyone else.
Yeah, I feel similar. I think that moment is one moment that I'm going to remember from Genius UK. Like, that's one I'm going to be like, oh, remember that when that happened? And I feel like in future seasons, it's like a moment to flash back to.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we got to give it to Ken. It was the best moment of the season. The first and only true like genius moment I felt in this show, which is a shame. But we got it. 7 episodes in, we got the moment that we were all waiting for.
I just hope all the viewers hung on. Because like it works. This format works. There's tweaks that have to happen, casting tweaks and game design tweaks and editing tweaks, but like it could be good. Like they could do it. And I'm hoping against all hope we get a season 2. I'm not sure if that's likely or possible or whatever, but
it's possible. I mean, look, we're the ones making the content for it, guys. We love this show. We will watch this show. Like, we're getting like 5,000 viewers per episode. Okay, like for a reality TV podcast, it's not bad. It's not bad.
We have the US version coming soon, so it'll be fun.
Knock on wood. Yeah, we do.
Yeah, hopefully.
I think they paused production on that, but.
Yeah.
No.
David Tennant's availability is a big thing.
Like, yeah, they were casting, but I think that but yeah, we love this show. This was so much fun. All right. Are you guys ready to get into our death match for this episode?
Yeah.
So before the podcast, I had our lovely producer, Sam Moore, text each of us one of 3 emojis. And that's because we are going to be playing essentially a bluffing game similar to what you might have seen in the Survivor 46 premiere. Okay. So each of us either received a emoji of a man, a fire, or a skull. Can everyone confirm they received one of those 3 without saying which one?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So whoever received the man emoji is going to be the one deciding. Whoever received the fire emoji, basically, you both have to, whoever it is, has to choose. Sorry. Okay, I'll just say it. I got the man emoji. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
That wasn't planned out, but I happened to receive the man emoji.
Wait, what's the third emoji?
So it's fire, skull. Nice one. It's fire, skull, man. Okay. So whoever. You both have to convince me that you have the fire emoji. Okay? If I choose the person who has the fire emoji, we both win. If I choose the person who has the skull emoji, that person wins. The other of us 2 lose. So, with all that being said, I would like to hear which of you 2 has the fire emoji.
It's me, Zach.
Yeah, it's probably Cory. I would
Yeah.
never have a fire emoji. He definitely is telling the truth.
Hold on, Danny. Hold on. I don't know if you're necessarily understanding this. You have to convince me you have the fire. So are you saying you do not have the fire right now?
Zach, clearly I don't have the fire emoji. It is clearly your brother who is telling the truth right now.
Dude, I'm staring at the fire emoji right now. There's like a hint of yellow at the start. It fades out to orange, then eventually red.
What the fuck is
There's
this? What is
there's an
the
extra
game
little
plan
pedal
here?
on the left side of the fire emoji.
So Danny,
Zach,
you do not want me to choose you.
Zach, of course I want you to choose me. And I think it is very evident that you know your brother and you know when your brother's lying. And your brother is clearly lying right now.
Am I crazy, or did he misunderstand the rules at the start and hand me the win? He just admitted to having. I mean, Zach, don't overcomplicate
I don't know.
this.
No.
matter.
I've played Blood on the Clock Tower with Danny. I absolutely know to overcomplicate it. Like I know that he would pull something like that.
Cory had to pull up the picture to literally explain the picture to you. Like that's a strategy that someone who's lying is going to do, and he made it very evident and was like, "Oh, let me describe the picture," not knowing that I'd probably do the exact same thing. And I was like, "I don't need to explain it, but I'm going to let the liar explain it."
It's
and pull
very
up
typical that you're calling this out
excuse.
now after I've already described the emoji and not, oh, Cory's pulling it up now. Like, very clearly, I started out
Why'd
quite
you
a
need
bit
to
ahead.
explain what the fire looked like?
In the same way Jung Moon had to describe exactly what the wording was on the card to give a little bit of evidence in this game where otherwise there is no evidence, right? It's all vibes based. And based on the fact that at the start of the game you said, yeah, Cory has the fire, which again, the strategic utility of that is what? Can you explain it to me, Danny? Like is it just Zach's gonna pick against Cory no matter what, so whatever I say doesn't matter?
I don't know your relationship.
Oh, it's full of animosity and vitriol.
I've been convinced the endless need to explain himself has proven to me who the liar is. And I know that the person with the fire right now.
Stop. So it also has this on the right side. There's like this, it arcs up in a certain way and it has a little bit of a divot. I don't even know what the skull emoji looks like.
Oh,
okay.
Like, I didn't know that was an emoji.
Interesting.
I think that Danny Butler has the fire emoji.
I do have the fire emoji.
You do have the fire emoji?
Yeah.
I completely, dude, look at this. It's like this.
I pulled up the skull emoji too, just so I was like, okay, I can be prepared. Yep.
I complete my 1-in-6 legendary deathmatch run.
Yeah. He got the animal one correct.
I thought about it, Cory. I thought about it.
Yeah.
I was like, Cory doesn't have any wins right now. He could get this win right here.
When you say I don't have any wins,
you have one.
It's a gross misrepresentation of reality. And here's the thing. In the final, we have to play 3 death matches, each worth 2 points.
Oh.
So I'm still in it.
Okay.
I just gotta dial in. I've always been a player who plays better on the bottom.
And then what, when we do our post-game interviews, are we going to be like, all right, Charlotte, like before you leave, real quick,
watch Zach and I play a game.
Right. We need you to judge black and white for us for the next half hour.
The truth of it all, Zach, is it's time for me to start designing games.
Sure. Look, if you wanted to, I would be open to that the whole season.
It's going to be like first one to touch the furthest wall from them wins. Go. It's going to be crazy.
Right. Like whoever we could have done. I was actually thinking of changing the deathmatch, by the way, when you were so insistent on how Bedalia should have timed it like exactly perfectly.
Or just a
drop.
Yeah, but I don't know how that would have worked with. Maybe we'll think about that for the finale. Danny, thank you so much for joining us. Is there any other thoughts you had about the Genius? Anything else you wanted to get off your chest?
No, thank you for having me. Such a blast to be able to talk about it, and glad that other people love the show and love the game design, and I'm really hopeful to see a season 2.
Yeah. Where can people find you? What are you up to outside of I guess the
Podcasting
Amazing
about the
Race,
genius.
which is and podcast about the genius.
Yeah, on Instagram, I host a live Amazing Race game here in San Diego. You can follow that at race_San Diego. We just had our 3rd season 2 weeks ago, 9 hours of racing. So fun. We had 14 teams, but otherwise you can follow me on my normal Instagram at DBUTSS. But I enjoy hosting fan-made games. So if you ever want to try one of these, keep an eye out.
Danny, let me know when you do the next one of these. I mean, I would I'm like a 2-hour drive. So yeah.
I'll let you know.
Yeah, but but make sure that we actually get to race.
Okay. Right. Yeah.
I can't do it. Just please, Danny.
You gotta lock in the spot for me. Yeah, that's not happening.
There may have been somebody on this next season who may have had an appearance. So
on
Race SD.
38.
So we'll see what happens.
And Cory, where can people find you if they ever want to go on a cruise with you? Where can they do that?
I'm actually off the grid these days. You'll only find me next week on our finale recap. So otherwise, tough luck.
Mm-hmm. And then aren't you doing like the Big Brother thing? Do you want to plug that?
I think it's announced. We'll cut that out.
Well, now it is.
Yeah, we'll cut it out.
We can't.
But I don't know. We'll ask Sam. He's the guy doing it also.
Anyways, God forbid. The big spoiler of Cory Wurtenberger is doing the Big Brother thing. Has been.
I just don't know why you're leaking all my shit, Zach.
Okay, keep it in.
But anyways, you can find me twitch.tv/Cory Wurtenberger. Just look up my name on the platforms you want to find me, and you'll find me. Also, Zach, let me give you an opportunity to plug your stuff. I feel like it's always you uplifting the guests.
I never. That was Rob after we did our first episode. He was like, you didn't let me plug anything, and I felt.
Oh yeah, we're on Rob Has a Podcast. Shut up.
Yeah. You can follow me on Instagram, Twitter at Zach Wirt. And yeah, guys, thank you all for listening. This was a really fun episode, and we got one more left, and then we're just gonna go all in with the postseason stuff. We've got our exit interviews with Jesus Christ, Bex, Vidalia, and Benjamin. All coming out either Thursday or Friday. Not exactly sure which one yet. But until then, guys, this was so much fun, and thank you for watching. Bye.
Fighting.
This is RHAP. We know reality TV.